And pose detection is a great way to create simple interaction with hand tracking. And in this video, I have the pleasure to show you a step-by-step guide on how to use them in Unity with the Oculus Interaction SDK. I'm Valem and welcome to Valem Tutorial, a YouTube channel to teach you everything about VR development. So if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to not miss the next video. You will also be able to find the source code of this project as well as some exclusive content on my Patreon where you can support the channel. Link in the description. Okay, so as you can see, I have here a clean Unity project. We are going to need a version above 2019.4 and mine is 2020.3. I've already downloaded the Oculus integration package, which you will be able to find in the description as well. And so the version of the Oculus SDK that I'm using right now is 38. But if any part of this tutorial change in a future update, make sure to check the comment section below where I will post a solution. So if we go to Edit, Project Settings, XR Plugin Management, we can see that I have also made the VR setup for Oculus on both desktop and Android. So basically, the project is ready for VR, so let's jump right to making the pose recognition. Now, I've previously made a tutorial about hand pose detection on my main channel Valem, where we made everything from scratch, and I highly suggest you to go watch it if you want a glimpse at the technique used for detection. But in the case of this tutorial, we are not going to build everything ourselves, but use what's provided by the Oculus integration. So let's make the Oculus setup first by removing the main camera and searching in the project window to Oculus Sample Interaction Rig. We can then drag it in the hierarchy, make sure it is at 000. So this prefab is basically a combination of the OVR camera rig, which is the camera used for the eye of the player, and the input OVR, which is the prefab used to interact with hands and controller. And by the way, if we press on play, you can see that this prefab comes with already two pre-configured hands for hand tracking, so everything is now ready. And if you want to learn more about this and all kind of interaction you can create with this, go watch my big tutorial series about the Oculus Interaction SDK on this channel that features grab, poke and ray interaction with both hand tracking and controller. But anyway, now the boring part of this tutorial is over. We have everything set up to create our first pose. So to create a pose, I'm going to right click in the hierarchy, create empty, and rename this game object poses, reset its position. And so this will be the parent of all the poses that we will make. So let's create another empty game object as a child of it. And for the first pose that I want to recognize, let's make a bunny with the right hand. I'm going to rename this empty game object to bunny right. Now the first component we are going to need on this pose is a shape recognizer active state. Let's search for it and add it to our bunny. So as you can see, this component needs a reference to our hand, so we can simply add a nref component. Then as we are making a bunny for the right hand, let's go to our input OVR and drag in there the right hand. And now we can drag the nref in the shape recognizer. So as you can see, the next thing we need to do is add a shape here. To do so, let's keep our project organized. First, I'm going to create a new folder called hand pose that will store all of the pose we can make. And in this folder, let's right click, go to Oculus Interaction SDK, pose detection, shape. Whoa, that was long to say. And there you go, we have created a new shape. We can rename it bunny. And this is where we will be able to define which finger needs to be closed or open in the shape we want to make. So as you can see, for each finger, we can choose between 4 checks. First, the curl, which is how bent the top 2 joint finger are. Deflection, how bent is the first joint. Abduction, the angle between the finger and the next one. So for example, the abduction of the index is between the index and the middle finger. And finally, opposition, how close the finger is from the thumb. Now, looking at a bunny pose, we can think of it as the curl and deflection is not open for the pinky, the ring and the thumb. The curl and deflection is open for the index and the major, and that we have a small abduction for the index finger. So let's do this. We can add curl and flexion for all, is open for index and major, is not for all of the other. Then we can add an abduction for the index and keep it to is open. Now our shape is ready. We can now drag it back to the bunny right shape recognizer list. And now that everything is ready, let's see how we can use it to detect something. So to trigger an event with the shape, we need to turn the shape recognizer active state as a selector. We can do so by adding here an active state selector, then drag the shape recognizer inside. And using this script, we can select anything when detecting the shape. So we could use, for example, a selector Unity event wrapper component here, drag inside the active state selector, and then use the Unity event that we have to trigger anything when we select and unselect. But in our case, we just want to check if the pose is working, so a simpler thing to do is to use a selector debug visual. For this, let's add a new cube in our scene, rename it Bunny Check, place it in front of the camera, and then add the selector debug visual component. So as the name suggests, this component will use the selection event to change the color of this cube. So let's add the selector of the pose over there in the first parameter and drag the renderer of the cube just below. And now everything is ready. Let's see if our shape is recognized. Okay, so I'm in VR right now and I have my hand tracking working. Now let's see if I do the bunny, if the cube changed to green. And there it is, guys. It works, but something is not right. When I turn my hand down and do the same sign, it's still working, but it's not a bunny anymore, it's a scissor. So this should not be detected. So let's see how we can take the rotation of the hand into account when making a pose. Okay, so back in our pose, we need to add a transform recognizer active state component. As you can see, we can drag in there the hand reference, and now it's a bit the same thing as for the shape. If I go to transform feature configs, I can choose what I want to check for the position of my hand. So in our case, you want to check that the palm is not down. So let's do palm down is false. Then we want to check this in world space. So let's set the up vector to world. And for the feature threshold, we can just click on the little dot over there and choose the default feature threshold. And now, as you can see, these are just a bunch of thresholds that you can use to compare each finger with the transform config you choose. But now we have two active states, one for the shape, one for the transform, and our selector only can listen to one. So how can we fix this? Simply, we just need to group them with an active state group component. Now this component will check that both of the active state are true and send it to this selector. So let's drag our shape active state and our transform active state over there. Make sure that the logic operator is hand, and then now instead of listening to the shape active state, we want the selector to listen to the active state group by dragging it over there. Perfect. And now let's click on play to try this. And there it is, guys. As you can see, the bunny shape is only detected when it is up. It worked great. Now, obviously, if you want to use the same pose but for the other end, it's really simple. So let me just show you. We can just duplicate the bunny right, rename it bunny left, and in the hand reference, we can simply drag the left hand instead and everything else is still the same. How cool is that? Now, let's try this by duplicating the cube and use the selector on our new bunny left pose now. Now, if we click on play, ta-da! The pose is recognized for both ends. Another important remark, if you want to quickly create multiple shapes and not have to redo everything like we did for this tutorial, there are some pre-configured shapes that you can look at in Oculus Interaction, Runtime, Prefab, Hand Pose, and now you can now simply drag one of these poses under the pose parent and add the hand that you want to detect in the hand reference. The rest is already set up for you. Another remark is that if you are dealing with a lot of different shapes, it's easier to group them together using a pose detector script. And to show you how this works, I've made this script earlier and put it on the pose game object. And below I've put a list with all of the shape I have here on the project and drag all of these shapes in the pose detector script. And if I go inside the script, you can see that at the start of the game, for each sector, I've hooked them to the display pose name function that will simply write the name of the pose in a text in front of the player, and here it is for the result. And there you go, guys, we succeeded to detect a pose with hand tracking. Thanks for watching this tutorial till the end, you are the best. I would love it if you could subscribe and like this video, it really helps to promote this channel. And of course, if you want to support my work and get access to the source code of this project and exclusive content, like this awesome Doctor Strange portal that I made, and that is in fact using endpost detection to spawn the portal, join us, the link is in the description. See you soon, bye bye.